Welcome once again to the Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Tell your friends they can download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. On today's show, the First Ministers are meeting in Saskatoon. Also, no federal budget on the horizon until possibly the fall. To talk about this and much, much more, we bring on Warren Steinley, the Member of Parliament for Regina Lewvan. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Jamie. Happy to be here.
I appreciate this because we had a bit of hiatus because of the election. Now we're getting into regular content. So good to have one of our regulars back on to really kick off this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here. And just before we get started, I just want to say everyone in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, be safe. We have some wildfires going on right now, and there are states of emergencies in both those provinces. So stay safe and listen to all the emergency response advice you're getting out there.
Absolutely. So thousands of people have been evacuated so far.
Evacuations, big fires, and everyone's working hard. And thank you to the first responders and everyone working hard to get the fires under control. And hopefully they get a few more under control this coming week.
Absolutely.
And hope for some rain.
Yes, let's hope so. But for all those dealing with that, to know that we are thinking about you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So hopefully that gets resolved. As you said, let's hope for rain. Let's hope that gets taken care of and get these people back to their homes safe and sound. Let's kick it off because you're from Saskatchewan. The First Ministers and the Prime Minister are in Saskatoon to discuss a whole wide range of issues. One of them, hopefully, is resource development and getting our product to market. And I just want to pull up that one clip here. So this is how it starts off. So he's in Calgary here. They're talking about fast-tracking major projects across the country that'll make Canada energy superpower. And I think we all agree with that, I think. The issue here is they can use all these fancy words, but until they get rid of C-69, the No More Pipelines bill, and C-48, the tanker ban, there is no way anything's getting built.
Correct. And I think the premiers both sent letters to the Prime Minister, Premier Moe and Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta, talking about some of the things they need to do. And that was at the top of their list. Getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, getting rid of Bill C-69 and 48. Without getting that done, scrapping the emissions cap as well.
Emissions cap, yeah.
Because without getting rid of these legislations, they're really tying the hands of our producers and people that want to invest in our country. And if they don't get rid of these pieces of legislation and policies, it'll be very hard to attract investment into our energy sector.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, they can use all these big fancy words, they can talk a big game, but if there are major hurdles for business to even just barely limp over, there's no way people will risk millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of capital on a country that will probably or could turn them down after almost a decade of permitting approvals.
There's just no certainty. The process is way too long. Investors want that certainty. And we'll see. The proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
Let's see if these liberal put the money where their mouth is and actually get rid of some of these hurdles. And if they don't, we'll have exactly what we had in the last 10 years. They say they're a new government, but all I see is the same faces, just in some different places.
Absolutely. It's the same ministers. The key ministers are the same as they were under Justin Trudeau. It's the same old liberals. We said this during the campaign, I don't know how many times. It's going to be the same old, old. And so far, this is the same old, old. Trudeau talked about a big game about resource development, but actually stifled it at every opportunity he got.
Well, look around the cabinet table and all the anti-energy activists. You have the head of that is Stephen Guilbeault. Obviously, he's never going to be in favor of our energy sector. And he's got a big voice as the Quebec lieutenant. He got elevated into Mark Carney's cabinet, and he has a voice that is always going to be against our energy sector.
And you look at his housing minister, a major anti-energy activist, and so many more.
His new chief of staff.
New chief of staff, anti-energy. So his words sound great. We'll see if they get some action into it. And I hope for the sake of Canada, sake of the revenue that could be generated, the jobs, the opportunity, that wealth that could be created because of potentially energy project, maybe 2, maybe 3 moving forward. This will be a game changer for our country, a game changer for the rest of the world because they can get responsibly extracted energy and help us on our budget too, right? Like we're running massive deficits here.
If they ever bring a budget.
If they ever bring a budget. Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. Let's throw that graphic up because I don't want to pass by this little point here. Just to say, you probably heard in question period, I know you did, Warren, they keep talking about slogans. Canada's new government. That's a slogan.
Yep.
Sorry to tell them, Mr. Carney, man with the plan, you're using slogans. Let's have a plan. Let's have some action.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's cue up cut 2. Go to that clip there. Okay. So they're, again, using the big words, but listen to the key points on what he says, and we'll unpack it when he gets there. So play cut 2.
Because it goes to the heart of the transformation this government intends. The first is to shift the core of spending from day-to-day spending, operational spending, to investment spending. In other words, spending that catalyzes investment, particularly investment in the private sector. Mr. Speaker, we'll see that through Build Canada Homes. We'll see that through the nation-building projects. We'll see that through facilities to accelerate private business investments, such as accelerated capital allowances.
So you're probably going to say the same thing I was, but very telling language here.
Yes, and I think it's funny. They're like, we're going to do investment spending now.
Right.
It's like they weren't in government for the past 10 years. What have you been doing for the past 10 years if you haven't been trying to do investment spending to create a better economy for our country? Like, you guys held the pen for 10 years, and they're acting like, boy, if we find out who was in charge these last 10 years, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to give them heck for it.
Yeah.
But the key language, transformation, right? What does that actually mean? But he goes on to kind of explain it. They're going to less on operational, so we'll see if they shrink the size of government. Okay, but
Maybe.
Let's see if they actually do it. To investment, right? This is the issue I have when liberals especially start using these buzzwords. When they're talking about investment, it means government innovation. And as we all know, when government inserts itself into the marketplace, you get slower innovation. And when he's talking about government investment in terms of dollars going here and there, it's usually based, especially when liberals are in charge, usually based on an outcome already determined by the PMO or the minister's office, right? So if you do A, B, and C, whether it works, doesn't matter, but our political objective is A, B, and C, you will get some money. And not actually what the marketplace wants.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And transformational, it just reminds me of a couple years ago when they talked about the just transition. Like,
Same thing.
I always get quite scared when I hear liberals talking about transformation and just transition. For me, it just sounds like more government, less private sector jobs, less investment in what we've been doing well for years, less investment in the energy sector, agriculture, and more virtue signaling.
Yeah, you look at the programs the Liberals already had in place, the Green Slush Fund, of course, a group of Liberal-friendly people agreeing to give each other, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, sitting on the board together, all in it together, padding their own pockets. Right? It's not necessarily going where the market wants. You're not achieving targets set out by the marketplace. You're setting out political objectives and then forcing people to go along with it.
Well, it's like getting rid of gas-powered vehicles by 2035. Where did that target come from?
Right.
And what are people going to do? Like, it's not listening to what people want and what people are trying to achieve. They're setting out these goals, picking numbers, having no idea how to get there. If that would happen, how would you charge all these vehicles? Where's the transmission lines that would be able to get the power to charge these vehicles? Like, it's almost overwhelmed already. It's just targets without any plans, kind of like not having a plan for a budget.
And if you even want to talk about that, the alternative energy or whatever you want to call it, if we're going into the batteries, well, do we not have to look at where the material is coming from and what conditions are the materials being extracted? Are they using child labor? Are they being environmentally friendly? In some of these countries where you get the materials to build those batteries, the answer is no. So the fact that we just put that all aside and go in this one direction, but is the market ready for it? The market always decides. That's the great equalizer in all of this.
I can tell you the market in Saskatchewan in minus 40-degree winters, probably isn't going to be that big.
Yeah, and you're going to cause a huge, if that target that Liberals set out of no more combustion engine vehicle sales is true and holds true, you're going to have a huge spike in the amount of combustion engine sales leading up to it, causing price increases. And of course, there's parts and everything else afterwards.
And I'll be clear, like if people want to drive EVs, I think
go ahead.
Absolutely. But the government shouldn't mandate it. Like let people make their own decisions. And if it works for you, that's excellent. I think in some conditions, in some environments, it just doesn't work when you're in different areas of the country. But if it works for you and you want to buy one, that's great. But it shouldn't be mandated by government what type of vehicle you should have to drive.
Well, exactly. If we set the standard, and that's usually what happened. You know, you and I think, well, I'm a little older, but you remember The Price is Right? I've used this example before, right? Yeah. When you always got a new car, Roddy, the announcer, would say a new car. He'd explain what features it had. But at the end, he usually says, and California emissions, right? It meets California emission standards. Yeah. And that was kind of a benchmark that circulated across pretty much all of North America. But it was the government saying, we need it to be, your engines to be this efficient. And it changed, the benchmark changed. But companies then met those standards using different methods, right? Yep. Maybe you get a 6-cylinder, now a 4-cylinder with the same amount of power, using more aluminum rather than steel. But every company was different, and they achieved the targets based on their own innovation, which happened very quickly because they had to meet those targets. But it also gave the consumers what they wanted, options.
100%.
So that's what we're going for. That is what we're going for, more choice, options in the marketplace. And hey, maybe Nissan or another company or General Motors or whatever comes up with a solid state battery or whatever, right? You shouldn't have them fighting against government grants on this side of you just to meet what the government wants.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, well, thank you. You gave me a compliment there. All right, let's go to the budget because it doesn't look like we're getting in one anytime soon. Yeah, well, they're asking for $500 billion. And let's be clear, right? The budget doesn't really authorize the spending. It's the estimates procedure that we go through that gets the money flowing.
Budget's the plan.
Exactly. The budget's the
I believe
roadmap.
he's supposed to be a man with a plan.
He is the man with it. Well, we're told that during the election. He's the man with the plan. Elect him because he's so super smart. He's got the plan. Well, play cut 3.
Experience as a former governor of 2 central banks, why not present Canadians with a budget at the very first opportunity?
Well, this is in fact based on my economic experience. There is not much value in my judgment, and it's considered judgment, and it's judgment based on experience, that there is not much value in trying to rush through a budget in a very narrow window, 3 weeks, with a new cabinet, effectively a new finance minister, just reappointed, but a new finance minister, rush that through.
So the man with the plan has no budget, so we don't have the roadmap, although he and his ministers are asking for almost $500 billion in parliamentary approval with no real roadmap on where that is going. I think that's extremely concerning.
So I believe he is planning to spend, $288 billion more dollars than was in Trudeau's budget?
Well, apparently. Well, we don't, we're just hearing these rumors.
So his first economic update was basically, I'm going to spend more money than Justin Trudeau. Who saw that coming?
Right. Well, he was the man with the plan. No budget, so no roadmap. He's blindsiding Parliament. Budgets have been presented after elections many times in the past. We've had budgets during wars, World War I, World War II, other conflicts, economic downturns. Like, a budget after election is not new.
No. And I believe there's probably been people in the finance department working on a budget when they looked at the platforms. I believe platforms are all been costed. So it would be pretty much a fair assessment to say there have been people working on budgets for a couple months now.
And Pierre Poilievre said during the campaign, if Conservatives were elected, we would sit through the summer to get pieces of legislation, key pieces, passed, or at least through the process, or started through the process. But one of them would be a budget, to get the ball rolling on that. So we've been prorogued since, December 14th, give or take, we rose. And then Justin Trudeau, of course, prorogued Parliament, stepped down, had the leadership, all during a trade war, a bunch of other crises that were going on. We had the election, and then we just got started, last week, and in a few more weeks, Parliament will rise. Let's get to work here.
In talking about those tariffs, I believe in the platform, Carney had budgeted $20
Well, that
billion
too.
of income from tariffs. And without telling anyone, even before the election's over, they sneakily took those tariffs off. So that's another $20 billion hole in the economic forecast for the Liberal government as well.
Yeah, we are already projected. What was it last year? It was about 40 to 60, somewhere in there, $60 billion in the hole.
Yeah.
And now we have 20 billion on top of the other,
280.
right? Like, how bad is it?
Well, it looks like it's a $500 billion deficit just about.
And we're getting, yeah, exactly. And we're getting a whole lot of warnings from economists, banks.
Recession.
I didn't want to say that word, but that there could be some really big stormwaters coming. And I don't think this government's ready for it at all.
And yeah, we're going to find some economic headwinds, you're right. And I think when the government talks about investment spending, I don't know what that looks like from a Liberal government.
Yeah, what does that mean? Well, how is he getting the money? You can only tax, borrow, or print so much. And I think we've maxed out each and every avenue they have.
Right.
Unless they find the answer, as we talked about just a second ago, is growing the economy. One of the ways to do it, based on market demand, supply and demand, that law is near absolute, is our energy sector. The world wants our oil, our natural gas, our minerals. Let's get them out of the ground as responsibly as possible in the most environmentally sustainable way we can, and we do it well in this country with tough labor standards that requires our workers to be as safe as possible. Let's create the jobs, the opportunity, and wealth right here.
And the infrastructure to get it to Tidewater so we can get it to trading partners around the world.
And that means Ottawa out of the way.
Yep, we need to build pipelines, increase our capacity at terminals to make sure that we can be a reliable trading partner around the world, and we need to get those jobs back into Canadian hands.
Absolutely. And when you have a piece of legislation that won't let any more tankers out of the West Coast leave, so you can't get Alberta energy off the West Coast, but you can import Saudi oil on our East Coast. How does that make any sense?
It's asinine, absolutely. Every tanker that comes in, I scratch my head how we aren't using our own oil that is great, like you said, environmentally sustainable, and shipping that across the country and having that be what powers Canadians' vehicles.
See, that makes common sense. Yeah. And that's a plan we would have had, and hopefully we will have a chance to implement that when the next election comes, whenever it comes. We're out of time, but as you know, the guests always get the last word. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being on the Blueprint, and I think we have to look to see what these Liberals are going to do and not just give them a blank check. If they're going to invest in our energy sector, our agriculture sector, that's something we can get behind. We'll support their good ideas because they took most of them from us. And when we have to propose new ideas, that's what we're going to do. And I'm looking forward to working for the people of Regina, Louvain, and Canadians across the country.
Well, you're doing a great job. And you're right. During the first week of the campaign, the Liberals stole 5 of our key platform planks. And hopefully they actually implement it. We'll see. We'll see if it was just campaign rhetoric or not. Yeah. Warren Steinley, Member of Parliament for Regina, Louvain, thank you for your time. Thank you for yours as well. Don't forget, we have new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Tell your friends to download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the Blueprint.